Welcome to Discover Joyous Love with Anita DeFrancesco as your host. This is a hybrid of topics under the subjects of mindfulness, sexuality, and relationships. Hello, welcome to Discover Joyous Love. I'm your host, Anita DeFrancesco, and my work is tantrawisdom.com, and you can find workshops and classes on meetup.com/tantrawisdom. But today I'm just coming on briefly. I haven't been on here on my podcast in a while, but what I wanted to do was just talk to you about divine intimacy and what that really means in a relationship, and how do we achieve divine intimacy if, we've been married a long time or we're in a new relationship. Now, there's so much with Tantra and Kabbalah, which I'm in the process of writing a book on the mysticism of Kabbalah and Tantra, and how these two approaches to divine intimacy are very similar and have a lot of meaning when it comes to love, healing, when it comes to working with a partner, a new partner or someone that is been in your life for a long time, a short time. Whatever the relationship is, there can always be a divinity, a sacredness. And where does that begin? That begins with you and how disciplined you are and how honest you are about your own self-love. So self-conditioning, unconditional love to yourself. And this is where it really, really begins. Now, a lot of people may think that, religion plays or yoga is a religion, but it's really not about religion. It's about good moral values and respecting other people. And just because you're in a relationship, and when we get into relationships, we tend to just vent, want to have a lot of sex. We want to get as much as we can from that person emotionally. So, emotional comfort, emotional support. And a lot of time you don't get that in the relationship. Why don't you get that? Because there is not enough communication and there's not enough honesty and trust. And a lot of time people are just really using each other for the moment, whether it lasts a year, 5 years, 2 years, whatever it is. Basically, people are out for themselves. And this is where we come into Tantra and talking about divine intimacy and what we can do to become one in union with that person. Now, of course, there's always that soul connection, that soul union. And a lot of people tend to think they have that when they meet a soulmate, when they meet a twin flame. But whatever it is good to refresh and find the reality of your soul so that you can be one as in union. Now, what I'm just going to read you is a Richard Rohr, R-O-H-R, from the Center of Action and Contemplation. And I collect his daily meditations. So if you want to look him up, Richard Rohr, R-O-H-R, and he talks about divine intimacy. And he reflects on our need for human and divine intimacy. So I'm just going to read you one of his passages here. The big secret is that an infinite God actually seeks and desires intimacy with the human soul. Once we experience such intimacy, or divine or desire for such union, only the intimate language of lovers describes what is going on: mystery, tenderness, singularity, specialness, nakedness, risk, ecstasy, incessant longing, and of course, suffering. So again, we always come back to suffering because we are human beings and we are vulnerable. And this is a part of divine intimacy. So he calls this the vocabulary of the saints. So I'm not getting religious here or anything with you, but the biggest secrets and desires are only revealed to others and even discovered by ourselves in the presence of sorrow, failure, need. And when we are very vulnerable, there is always a broadening of being on both sides. So we are larger people afterwards. And those who never go there remain small. So what he is saying is that expand your love energy, love everyone, love lots of people, have healthy relationships, be honest, experience love. It doesn't have to be marriage with every person you meet, but experiencing and exercising love. Because if you don't use it, your body can turn to the hate mode, because then we become hardened, armored. And love is an emotion to experience, whether you're just loving people. It doesn't have to be romance, doesn't have to be a romantic relationship, just loving other people. So he also goes on to say, it's only when we were in such a tender place that God can safely reveal the inwards of God to us. So let me see what else he has here on this. I'm just going to do some reading today with a few things. How does the secret of intimacy become unhidden? Only when we stop hiding. Now when I talk about hiding, we talk about shame and hiding. And we're hiding from ourselves. We're hiding from past self-sabotaging ourselves, or things that we were burdened with or brought up with that was not acceptable, or that seemed like it was negative, a lot of negativity. So intimacy is the way that love is transmitted. Now, again, intimacy is not necessarily sexual or romantic or with a beloved opposite partner. It can just be with people around you, your family. How intimate are you with your family? Do you talk down to mom and dad? You can't stand them after all these years? Do you still have intimacy with them? Or your children? I know children, a lot of time adult children just can't be bothered with their parents. So that intimacy could be, hardened, lost. But just your daily friends, are you intimate with them? Meaning compassionate. Do you hear what they're saying? Are you the ear for them? Are you the person they can lean on to talk about their challenges? So how intimate are you with the human condition, yourself and others out there? It happens when we expose our insides, when we become empathic. This is always scary, because we have to open up a part of ourselves, a vulnerable part of ourselves, to understand the intimacy of another. And we sort of have to connect intimately. Like, for example, I've been watching that Ryder Williams, who saved that 10-year-old boy in Santa Cruz Seabright Ocean over the weekend. And I've been so in touch with that, crying, feeling the pain of the boy that they saved, and the lifeguard for putting himself out there with this was a true intimate connection, an intimacy of God, an intimacy of human love, the love for the human being. So again, there was a lot of vulnerableness there, a lot of fear, a lot of exposing of the inside self. Not trying to be a hero, not ego. So ego was not a part of this. Believe me, it wasn't. There was a lot of fear there on both sides. But this is where the compassion and the light kicked in. So Richard shares, let's see what else he has to say here. Sexuality creates an ideal container for true intimacy. Of course it does. If it's healthy, if it's honest, if it's receiving and giving on both sides. And we'll talk about it with where Tantra comes in. Unhealthy expressions often contribute to an effective avoidance of it. So unhealthy expressions. Are you getting your partner just at surface level? Are you more of the giver? Are you being led on? Are there expectations that aren't going to be met? Is there communication? Intimacy is not just a well-kept secret of the soul. Now we got it. Intimacy in general. We're not necessarily romantic intimacy. Not just a mystery that defies logic. Not just a poverty that we avoid. How about that? Powerful words there. Richard Rohr. I'm reading from Richard Rohr, R-O-H-R, Daily Meditations, Center for Action and Contemplations. CAC.org. You can find some of his blogs. I believe vulnerable intimacy is the entrance, he says, into and the linchpin between all human and divine love. And let me read that again. Richard Rohr says that vulnerable intimacy is the entrance into and the linchpin between human and divine love. Vulnerability. Let's take off the mask, narcissist. Let's get rid of the armor. Let's get out of the control mode of discharging, having to be in control, having to have that ego guide you all the time or govern you. So let's undo the mask here. He also says that, Richard Rohr, celibacy reveals that an awful lot of sex is not about intimacy at all. Think about that one. And I was already saying that. You can have this relationship of physicality, you can have this relationship of action, but is there true intimacy? Getting back to what intimacy is, it is the vulnerableness, the love of your soul, of you connecting and sharing with another human being. Intimacy is not just a well-kept secret of the soul, he says. It's a mystery that defies logic. Okay, we just read that. We just had that part. So that he says, I'll leave you with that here. I guess we have to want to love and to be loved. Want to love first and to be loved, or we will never go there. So let me get on to what divine intimacy is in Tantra for you. Again, this refers to the meaning of the physical, emotional, and spiritual dimensions of love and sexuality as a sacred expression. Now, this is in the Hinduism. The Richard Rohr was more in the Catholicism. Maybe I'll get into some Kabbalah here, but anyhow, the divine intimacy with Tantra is that we work with a bag of tools to help you to enhance, enlighten, and to bring back intimacy into your life if it's lacking, or to teach you how to be intimate without the trauma and the pain and the patterns, and having trust and honesty is number one. So Tantra, again, is rooted now in spiritual unity. Teaches every individual is a manifestation of divine energy. We are all a manifestation of divine energy. Divine intimacy arises when partners recognize and honor this shared sacredness. So if partners together want to learn about this, you can come to my classes, tantrawisdom.com, or see me privately. I work with you individually and as a couple, seeing each other as extensions of the same source. This awareness transforms intimacy into a transcendent experience where love becomes a path to self-realization and unity. This is something that is so important in the world, and to get it across in all different religions or practices out there, because remember, Hinduism is a religion, Catholicism is a religion, Kabbalah is part of the Judaism religion, something Madonna really studied, and she's having a course right now going on about her and one of the people at the Kabbalah Center there in Los Angeles, where I studied, to offer their teachings. So you can look that up. Sacred sexuality as a practice. So again, it's a core of Tantra, views sexual energy as a powerful spiritual force. So again, taking the sexual energy, and like Richard Rohr said, that he said that if you're just having all of this physicality without intimacy, it's really not divine. I love divineness. That's all I want in my life, which I have created that sacred space around me, that divine people are attracted to me as well as I'm attracted to them. In any situation, this is not necessarily in a romance. So again, energy, breath, and presence are all part of the Tantra practice. Mindfulness, communication is so important. Divine intimacy also depends on the mindfulness and the opening the communication, folks. Now, without this communication, we are not going to grow as a human being. And then the next relationship that you get into, if it's a romantic relationship, is going to also need work and not be where it needs to be. So every relationship you want to grow from, one after the other. You want to grow into being smarter, to being more emotionally intelligent. Transformation and healing. When practiced with intention, attention, divine intimacy in Tantra can loosen emotional and physical blockages. So we have a lot of trauma in our bodies, patterns from childhood. Well, you want to reflect back on your childhood, what happened in school with other children, maybe at home, there wasn't enough expression, enough love toward you, maybe toward the siblings, whatever it was, we're going to undo those blockages. Divine intimacy in Kabbalah. In Kabbalah, divine intimacy is the deep soul level union between two people that mirrors the eternal relationship between God and creation. That's twin flame. And it really is. Twin flame is a term, and it is a soul connection between two people. I mean, I know a lot of couples use that, sparingly today, that term, that they met their twin flame, but there's only one twin flame. There's many soulmates. But I think in Kabbalah, they really focus on that one union with that one, that God, and even in Catholicism or in Tantra, the one that is chosen for you. So in other words, we don't choose love. Love chooses us. Love doesn't find us. Love looks for us. So love finds you. I always think back of the movie with Tom Hanks and Forrest Gump. Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. Who knows if that woman, what was her name, Jenny, if she really was in love with him, but they made it look that way, that they were spiritual soulmates or maybe even twin flames. But she had to go on and do her life. And that's what happens with twin flames. They separate, they come back. And so life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get, folks. Hopefully it's sweet. In Kabbalah, divine intimacy is the deep soul level union between two people that mirrors. Okay, we just said the sacred union. Kabbalah teaches us that every genuine connection is a reflection of the eternal dance of creation. Love, light, and spirituality equal divineness. Then there's the role of desire and eros, which I'm going to talk about in this book I'm putting together, but expressing gratitude, expressing forgiveness. In order to have love, you need to forgive and you need to have gratitude. So we really have to work on these values that we are somewhere along the line we were taught as a child, well, back in my generation anyway, but it doesn't mean we held them, because the world doesn't talk about these things or practice this kind of how to express yourself. Now I have a book called Love Buzz, How to Love, How to Express Yourself. Let's see, How to Love, Express It, and Feel It is the title, and that's the subtitle of my book, Love Buzz. So look it up and go there. Let's see, I'm going to kind of close out here. I just wanted to come on quickly today. Easy ways to build divine intimacy. Just as there are many ways you can strengthen a relationship with a friend, you get mad at each other, you get glad again, you make up. Here on earth, there are many ways that you can strengthen your relationship with God, but God, the divineness of the human condition and the partner you're going to choose in your life. So, that being said, we need to start working on your emotions and allowing the blockages to subside and allowing you to come into the real you, the presence. Nurturing your relationship, there's many ways to do it, and we'll talk about that another time. Let's see what else here. I'm going to leave you now. Thank you for tuning in to Discover Joyous Love podcast here. I'm Anita DeFrancesco. My work can be found at tantrawisdom.com, meetup.com/tantrawisdom. Today is August 3rd, 2026.